I think the possibilities are pretty unlimited. It's most useful for instructional, collaborative, and social scenarios. Anything where you can say, hey, how do I do this? Help me wire up this light up card. Anything that's DIY. Anything where you say, let me show you.
So we all use Skype, we love Skype, and Skype on HoloLens is a communication tool.
Skype on HoloLens, we can actually take someone who's remote from you, bring them into your space, and let you experience that together in real time.
Everybody has had something in their house that they've tried to repair and didn't quite know how to do. So with Skype on HoloLens, the other person does not need to have a HoloLens. It could be on a tablet or a computer.
And we both can add things to the world together.
As soon as they answer, they can draw on surfaces, and they can add images and move them around. And I also have those tools. For the light switch, when you try it and the light turns on, you know you succeeded. That's when Skype on HoloLens makes the most sense.
Before diving into building apps for HoloLens, one of the things to think about is that you're not building for a flat screen. You're building for your world. You're augmenting your world. You're mixing holograms into the world that already is.
If somebody said, I want to start designing an app for HoloLens, grab something like Unity, start building anything in 3D. All you have to use is our APIs on top of that.
The way that we take experiences that exist today and push them into a HoloLens where they can be mixed reality and a part of your real world is amazing.
Building apps that leverage your world is a really great way to broaden your horizons. It's just a ton of fun to learn what is possible.
Hello everyone and good afternoon. My name is Jay Cohen. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Network Concepts. I want to thank you guys all for joining us on today's webinar, Windows 10 for Small Business. So of course, we're going to talk about Windows 10 and all its features. And I'm here with Tyler Pritchard, who's going to do just that. So I have one quick housekeeping rule. If you guys have any questions throughout the webinar, just feel free to type that into the chat and we'll go over that towards the end. So that's all I have. So without further ado, Tyler, would you like to get started?
Sure. Thanks, Jake. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to do something that we've actually never done before. This started out as a slideshow, but then we decided we were going to change everything to be interactive. So this is going to kind of be like a live TV show, to where we're going to try to walk you through some of the features that people love or they hate about Windows 10. One of the biggest things that we see with Windows 10 is all the new features, and I hate to say it, they're some of the features compared to 8 are really coming back. So some of the things we're going to touch on today, well, we're going to touch on a lot, but the major features we're going to look at is the start menu, because it's back again, which if anybody remembers Windows 95, it was the big thing with the that was the big thing about Windows, was the start menu. Then when they took it away, people freaked out. So we're going to go over the new start menu. Cortana is another thing that there's a lot of myths going around about what it is, what it does. Of course, everybody loves Microsoft Edge. Everybody loves all the new Microsoft browsers that come out. But we're going to go over Edge and go over that, a lot of that kind of stuff. We're also going to go through like switching apps and stuff like that, so you guys are more familiar with what's going on. So the biggest thing I think that happened from the XP7 era to 8, and people absolutely hated 8, is the start menu. This was the biggest thing that Windows came out with in Windows 95. They actually made a commercial about it. If anybody remembers it, here, I'll play the beginning of it. This is actually or if anybody remembers back in the day, they raved about the start menu. You can see this
Tyler, I don't want to interrupt real quick. We're having a little trouble seeing the screen at the moment.
Which screen?
I think it's just your screen, so if you could we just need to show our screen. I apologize. I just wanted to make sure everyone can see that.
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah, I think we should have done that in the beginning. All right. So we are back with the start menu. But anyway, that's the problem with live training broadcasts. That's what happens. But let's go with the start menu and the things that it does. You can always press the logo key, and you can see here the power keys and settings. What they added was what they had in Windows 8, which was the tiles. But here you have all your power settings, sleep, stuff like that. From up here, you can also hit the all apps, which then brings you down through what you can do with it. And you can stretch this thing out or shorten it up to get your tiles started up there. So if you go up to the back here, if you go here, you can actually change all of your account settings, how you log in, how you log out, all of that stuff, which is, you know, nice to have, to where you're not searching for stuff all the time. The biggest thing that I think they entered, and this is, you can turn Cortana on and off, but you're able to type in and search for almost anything you want. So if it's on the computer, you just type it into the search menu and it'll do whatever you want it to do. So it kind of brings up the new applications from the App Store really, really quickly. You can also see, like, in File Explorer, if you click on it, it'll bring up your recent stuff, what's going on. If you type in anything on the web, like we just typed in weather for the app, it'll also bring up web results down at the bottom. So this is really, compared to 7, this is really a huge step forward with everything. There's stuff in here too that if you have documents or something, it'll bring up suggested search, and then it'll bring up my stuff, whether you have stuff in there. So no matter what you do to search, it really makes things a heck of a lot quicker. So the other thing that we have that people kind of, I think, really feel like it's a Windows 8 thing is the tiles. When these tiles came out in 8, people were freaking out. Now, we're looking at probably another month for 2 years since Windows 10 came out. The first year, 300 million people installed it. So there's a lot of Windows 10 out there, whether people like it or don't like it. There's a lot of people out there doing it. But you can see here with the apps, you can pin stuff to the start menu. You can pin stuff to the taskbar. So it's really easy to, if I wanted to put my calculator on the taskbar, you can see it pop up down there. If I wanted to put it on the tile menu, you can see now it pops up on there. And you can do the same thing in reverse. You can unpin and unpin. So it makes it easy really to get around. I think people see change and they start to freak out, but really you can get rid of this stuff and you can organize it. This is a pretty clean desktop for this presentation, so I don't have a lot of stuff on this desktop, but I mean, if I wanted to move stuff around to where, you know, I thought it would be, that doesn't move around. Yeah, there you go. Some of the stuff is static, but a lot of the stuff can be moved over and back, and yeah, so you can have it in groups. So this is the life at a glance, and then this would be whatever group you wanted to call it. If we wanted to create like a work group or a mail group or a news group, we could just make tons and tons of different groups to actually create a tiled menu to make it easy to go around. Like, this is kind of a coincidence, but these are the apps that we run here. This is the, you know, the PSA thing that you guys as customers all deal with because you have access. This is quoting. QuickBooks. This is the auditing software. So you can see how it kind of groups a lot of it on its own. And the reason that, I think people are confused about this, the reason that I can have a pretty clean desktop is if you click on the task view down there, you can see that I have desktop 1 and desktop 2. So you can create virtual desktops. If I wanted to create another virtual desktop, now I have desktop 1, 2, and 3, and these are all virtual machines that are running on this computer. They don't use a lot of resources, but you probably don't want to have a ton of them. But let's say if you were working on something and then you wanted to do a presentation, a webinar for a bunch of people, then you would create a brand new desktop and create it the way that you wanted to in a virtual machine. And that's really easy to do. Like I said, if this task views on everything, a lot of people know the Alt-Tab switches from Windows 7 and XP. If you do that, that's going to bring up the screens, but it'll also bring it back to where you want to go. So you can, here's our view of the things. If I only had one desktop up, it would obviously change that. So if anybody has any questions, Jake's going to actually answer them, or I'll answer them as they're going along. Unfortunately, this kind of presentation, this isn't a PowerPoint presentation, so I won't be able to see your questions, but Jake can actually cut in, or we can deal with them at the end. I know people really I know people ask me all the time, like the virtual desktop thing. It's one of the greatest features, because before you'd have to go and actually start a virtual desktop. Now you just hit the plus sign and you can create quite a few of them all going on. And then if you want to go back to our original desktop, we're right there. So if you wanted to do like different things per desktop, it's a very easy way to get organized without ruining anything. And then you can just close them out, or you can save them, or you can, like I said, you get the thumbnail view of them, of all the ones you have open. You can also move apps from one desktop to the next desktop. That's something that people kind of ask a lot, but you can take, let's say, this app to this desktop. So now I'm on desktop 2. Now I have that app. Now we're back to our original desktop, but it's over on the other one. The other thing, and we just moved the app, but let's go grab that app back, because that app is one of the original Windows. This is going to be like the new way apps are written. And the way that they behave. And you can see here, this is totally different than what we're used to. You'll see a lot of the newer apps are starting to transform this way, but this was introduced in Windows 8.1, or I think Windows 8 or Windows 8.1, where you have these kind of weird menu things where you can actually interact with the app right there on the sidebar. But it's really been perfected in Windows 10. In Windows 8, it was clunky. In Windows 7, it didn't exist. But more and more, you're going to see apps written like this in the way they do it. The other thing that's improved in my mind, with Windows 10 is snapping applications. This has been around for a long time, but it was always like cumbersome to do and to figure out. So now if you want to snap something, it's very easy. You can see right there, if we drag it to the corner, it's just kind of, you know what I mean, playing there and going along. And then the other thing we can do is, like if we wanted to bring up this would be right next to it. So we would have two applications that snap right next to each other, and you can see there's almost no effort at all. And you can even do this in quads. Like for me right now with quads, it would be difficult because I have a multiple monitor display and you're only seeing one of them. So if I wanted to do it in quads, you guys wouldn't see it, but you can snap things into quadrants if you want to for easier viewing without having to worry about where it's going to go, what it's going to do, and how to do it. This is another big feature. See, people get caught up, and I know why people get caught up in this new start menu, because it wasn't introduced very well. It was drug out in 8, which was terrible, and then it's been revised multiple times in 10. But now it's actually pretty good. If you look at it now, if you right-click on it, you don't have to go to Control Panel, or you don't have to find all the different things that you wanted to look for. So if you right-click on it, or if you hit the Windows menu and X, it brings this up. So if you want to bring up a command prompt to figure out what's going on, I know a lot of people don't use command prompt, but you can go into, let's say, the more advanced features without having to search for them. Whoops. So we can go into, let's say, computer management, disk management, all of the stuff that is the higher level stuff that is hard to see. Now, if you wanted to do it here, it's really easy. If you want to do it here, you can still do the same thing and type it in, but if you don't know what you're looking for, that's a nice feature to have as far as what's going on and what's happening. Now, I know that people have a lot of issues with Cortana because they think it's spying on you, and it's not. It's no different than Siri or whatever. Amazon has one, Google has one. They all have the same thing. Cortana is a little bit different because it's designed to work for businesses. It will obviously let you cater it to your needs. I know when I have to travel for work, we don't do as much traveling anymore, but you can see I have a meeting here, but it will do a lot of things as far as like helping you out and where you're going. Like, I almost missed a plane one time, and because Cortana actually tracks it and tracks traffic, it actually alerted me to what was going on, when it was going on, and how to do it. Inside of here, you can set anything that you don't feel like is personal. You can go into Cortana and turn it on or off, and you can really feel perfectly safe about it. The other thing that Cortana can do is, obviously, you can talk to it. So if you don't like to type, or you don't feel like you have to type, you can just hit there's 2 ways of doing it. You can say its name and it'll respond. I'm not going to do that because then it gets out of control, or you just hit that. So if you wanted to say you're bored, if you click on the thing, you could just say, tell me a joke.
What do Winnie the Pooh and Ivan the Terrible have in common? The same middle name.
So maybe not the joke is the worst or the best thing, but you can do different things to, like, we could tell it to remind me to go to a meeting in 30 minutes. Remind me to go to a meeting in 30 minutes.
Sure. I'll remind you to go to a meeting at 3:50 p.m. today.
So that's
Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. I'll remind you. You can also see it in your reminders list anytime.
So you can see Cortana's a pretty cool thing in businesses. It can do a ton of different stuff, and it's personalized. Like I said, you have this is what's called the notebook. You can, if you want to add music preferences, if you want to add settings. Okay, this is the Hey Cortana thing that will, if you say it, it'll kind of always come up and ask you questions. but there's all different things you can do as far as your interests and what you want it to do. You can schedule things here. You can see the meeting that we just scheduled is in there. These are all the help menus. So it's very user-friendly as far as help. It almost reminds me of the paperclip back in the day with Office. It's very easy to get help on this stuff. Like I said, you can do reminders for time-based, place-based, person-based. It doesn't matter. You tell it what to do and it'll do it. You just have to hit like the plus sign next to reminders. So if we wanted to add another one, we could just, instead of telling Cortana to do it, if you hit the plus sign, you can pick person, place, or time, remember to do what, and you're done. And you can also go back in, obviously, and just delete it. Now, Cortana is pretty well integrated into Edge. Now, Edge is another thing that when it came out, for some reason, and I remember every Internet Explorer when it came out, everybody hated it. Edge came out, everybody hated it. Edge, to me, is kind of like just another version of Internet Explorer. Now, I use Chrome a lot. I don't know why I do, and Chrome kind of always stays the same, to where Internet or Microsoft seems to hurt themselves by making too many drastic changes. But I mean, if you ever wanted to pick something and you want to go to Internet Explorer, if you click here, you can open it in Internet Explorer. It's not like they got rid of Internet Explorer. It's still there. It didn't go anywhere. Now, how long they're going to patch it and how long they're going to keep it that way, I have no idea. I'm sure eventually it's going to go away, but like I said, it's pretty much, still in the operating system. Nothing's really changed. The big benefits of Edge that I see are, you've got this new hub thing. Now, this isn't really anything that's, groundbreaking. You have favorites, you have reading lists, you have your history, then you have your downloads. So the downloads. So if you go into your favorites, this is pretty standard on kind of everything that you see. I'm going to get something a little bit easier to look at, so it's not doing too many graphics. But if you go into your favorites or go into the hub, you can see all the stuff's in here. And the one thing that I like about it is the reading pane. Before we get to the reading pane, we're going to do the web notes, only because it seems like that's something that people talk about or share. Today's world is a lot about tablets. A lot of people work on tablets. So the web notes are pretty interesting, because right now you can just draw on Internet Explorer. So if we were collaborating on this, we could just sit there on this web page and you can see all the stuff up top. This is the pen, and then you can pick your colors. So if we wanted to, pick red, blue, and the highlighter, obviously you can see, to where you can start to collaborate on stuff. This is the eraser, where you can take stuff away. You can add comments to stuff, on what you want to do. And then, well, that's for a snippet. But then you can go in here and you can choose to save it as a web note, or you can share it. You can share it with other people on Twitter, OneNote, messaging, mail. So if you're working with a tablet or a TV screen where you can draw on pages that are on webs, it's actually a pretty good tool. So you can see through all that. But one of the bigger things that I like, if anybody that ever travels is going to realize that when you're going someplace or you're stuck on a plane and you have no internet access, this is one of the newer things that it did, is it created a reading list. So I just picked some things that basically I would feel like I would want to look at later. Maybe this isn't something that I would want to look at work, but you know, we live in Philadelphia. We all have to be Eagles fans. So David Irving gets a 4-game PED suspension. Maybe that's not something I want to read at work, but maybe I could put it into my reading list. So I can go here. And the nice thing about the reading list is it's offline. So if you're taking a train home or if you're getting on a flight, you can load up your reading list and, you know, everything. You don't have to pay the airplane. I don't know. Last time I was on a plane last month, I think it was like $9 or something for an hour flight, and it didn't even have that much data. The other thing that I like about the Edge browser, besides that, is you can go into reading view. Websites to me sometimes are beyond, they're just advertisements. So if you ever want to read something, which I know now everything's movies and reading's a thing of the past, but if you want to sit down and read something quietly and you're on the train or on a plane, all you have to do is really hit this button. You know what I mean? And now you can see it's a totally different atmosphere. So if we go to, now not everything is, you can't do everything in the reading view. You'll see the pages flip if it's capable of doing that. But you can see now we're trying to go through this whole movie. I don't want to see the movie. Maybe I just want to read the article. I know that's old-fashioned, but you know, it's a nice feature to have. Let's go back to the beginning here. So you can see all your favorite stuff is here. These are all the sites that I use for work. And then, of course, you still have your home button, which takes you to, I mean, you can adjust the home setting. All your settings are still here, just like they were in the other internet stuff. So everything's still here. It just looks a little different. But once you get used to it, it's really, you know, to me, better than most of the browsers, depending on what you're using it for. Now, a lot of this stuff is set up through a Microsoft Live account. That doesn't mean that you have to necessarily use your personal account for that, but you can link them together if you want to. This computer that I'm on is joined to a domain. So you can see here, you can see we went to the to the settings menu, which is nice to have. This is joined to a domain, but I can still see my personal stuff if I want to, and I can have it travel with me. This desktop background is the same desktop background that I have on my company laptop. It's also the same desktop background that I have when I log on at home to my personal PC. So that kind of stuff does follow me around. And to do that, you would go into your account settings. So you're going to see a lot of stuff kind of follow you around, but it's not as Big Brother-ish as you think it is. It doesn't really pass through all the stuff. Like when my laptop, I have a PIN, obviously because I don't want to get my password hacked. So that PIN unlocks on that specific computer on my laptop these two accounts. So I'm never typing in these two accounts here. Now what we have, I put my my personal Outlook.com account in, which is a Hotmail account. We actually have a business Hotmail account, but I didn't want to use that because this is live and I didn't want any customer information popping up. But as a business, if you want this stuff to follow you around, you can easily add another account. You know what I mean? Like I could add the live account for the business. The reason I don't is because sometimes you see stuff pop up. We don't use the live account for anything other than testing anyway, but just for confidentiality reasons. What you do is when you hit add an account, it's going to walk you through it. You can add Yahoo, iCloud, anything you want to, and then it's just going to send you a confirmation code. Once you enter the confirmation code, you just hit it and it'll save all your settings. And then that gives you the ability to, once it's saved, so when I go home, let's say I'm here and I want to read stuff and I put it in my reading list, I'll be able to see that stuff at home or on my laptop. That's the kind of stuff that's going to follow me around. The other thing is, once we log on, is we're able to then configure like our mail contacts or different things like that. So you can see here the calendar's already set up. A lot of this stuff auto sets up, but these apps are free. So you can see the calendar's configured. You just saw down here Jake's email. This is the mail application that was configured. So let's get rid of this. You know, if I wanted to, to see any of those things, we can keep them together as far as what's going on. I don't know what's on the calendar. I mean, obviously, we're at a go-to meeting because you can see we just created it. But let's say we wanted to do a wide calendar meeting, and then it'll preview everything. You can also set your account picture in there. So if we go to settings, account, I can't do anything with the camera because we're on a webinar. If I hit the camera button, it's going to mess up our webinar. But you can, obviously, everything has a camera. If you click that, you can just take your picture there and stick it in there, or you can browse for a picture of yourself if you want to. We don't really go over this, but I know people ask about the facial recognition stuff, which is really cool. The facial recognition stuff is hardware related. So that's really an Intel product. It's really cool stuff. But the cameras for the facial recognition are about $150. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's better than smart cards and stuff like that to where you're constantly maintaining them. But if you're a business that's really worried about security and you want something that's, you know, you're not going to steal someone's face, that's another cool thing. But I think people always ask me like, oh, I put my picture in here, why can't I use facial recognition? And that's not how the facial recognition works. To get started, I don't have one of those cameras plugged into this, but if you want to get started, you'd have to create a PIN anyway. So when you go into your sign-in options, see where here it says create PIN. I don't have this on this one because this computer is a desktop. It never leaves, so I don't have to worry about typing in a password and it getting man-in-the-middle attacked. But I could, for this account, create a PIN, and then when I log on and log off, it will allow me, instead of typing the password, it'll allow me to just type the PIN, and the password will always be encrypted. So it's an easy way in and out. Some people look at it as, you know, hey, we don't really like that. It's too easy to guess. You know, it's, to me, it's one or the other. A lot of people want really complicated passwords. I mean, they're starting to say like, you know, 9, 10 digits, upper, lowercase, and all these weird rules. That's an easy way to go get out of that. And then once you create that PIN password, it'll allow you, the facial recognition after that will become an option if you have the camera. The picture password is also, I was looking at this below because people see the picture password, they see my picture. The picture password is not what you think it is either. You can see it here. It's for touchscreen PCs. It allows you to see a picture and draw something, but it's not the facial recognition software. So we're through the settings and all that other good stuff. The one thing that I think they did a really good job at is protecting the PC. To me, Windows 10 is by far the most secure operating system. And I'm not saying that because they're a partner of ours. I wouldn't say that about anything. But it's got, way back in when Windows, I don't know if anybody remembers 3.11 for workgroups. Windows used to come with antivirus. And then this huge market emerged. And then antivirus really is to stop self-propagating viruses. It doesn't stop people from doing things, which is considered malware. So if we look at Windows 10, it is, to me, very easy to use. As far as we might be locked out of the firewall settings. On certain domains, you can get locked out of stuff because oh no, we're good. Here's the app. You have to watch when you're typing stuff in, as I was telling you earlier. When you type stuff in, it gives you choices. So there's Firewall Control Panel. What we're looking for is the app. But you can see here, we have a domain profile, a private profile, a public profile. This is not a laptop. This is a desktop. So this never leaves here. So this will never be on a public network. It will never be on a private network. It will only be on a domain network. So you can see that the security, to me, is a little laxed. This kind of security configuration is more for an auditor than it is for a true security. But now if this was a laptop, those rules would be totally different. But you can see how easy it actually is to go through and do everything, you know what I mean, and to configure it. And it also comes with Windows Defender. So if you go here, here's all your updates and security. You can see we have, well, tonight's patching night. So for us, we've got some patching stuff. You can see on this machine, it actually has a new Office on it, which we're going to look at, but we also have older versions of Office because we have to help people. But you can see here, it's got Windows Defender. Now, a lot of this is grayed out because we're on a domain, but I mean, the days of paying $20, $30 for antivirus, they're gone with Windows 10. Now, the problem with free antivirus is from Windows is there's no liability. But you can get paid versions of antivirus right now, like that we sell it to our managed customers for $1 a month, which is $12 a year. So a lot of the stuff in Windows 10 is free. If you have auditing reasons that you feel that you want to have someone else be liable, a third-party antivirus vendor, don't pay a lot of money for it, because viruses and malware are two totally different things. Most of the infections now are caused by people executing stuff, and very few viruses actually catch it. But speaking of free, this is where we were before. With Windows 10 tablets and phones, you guys, I mean, we had Windows 10 phones forever, and we still do have them. Office, and people don't really know this, Office is really free now. There's some downfalls to it, but in their version, in their haste to compete with Google, they actually have a free online version of Office. And you can see here, it'll ask you to sign in with a Microsoft account or a school account. We already have the account saved, so it's automatically going to sign me in. It's not going to ask me to pay anything, but you can see here now we are working on all the new Microsoft Word Online, and I paid nothing for it. Here's your free apps. If we click here, this is all of your free apps down here. Now, there's some stuff that is not free. Yeah, that pop-up keeps coming up. The premium stuff like Access is not free. But you can see here, we have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Sway, which Sway is Mail, People. That's not that great. You do have OneDrive that is free, because a lot of smaller businesses and a lot of people don't really need a file server anymore. So if we go into our free Office, you can see here I can open stuff from OneDrive. So here is the free OneDrive, and you can see this is kind of stuff that it's really all work related. I don't use my I don't really use my Hotmail account. It's more for testing purposes. But you can see here, here's all my documents. We don't use OneDrive, we use Data Drive, but it's not a big deal. OneDrive is built into Office. It is free along with all your apps. Like if I wanted to, start a Word app, I don't need to have Word installed. The downfall of this, like I said, is it needs internet connection for some reason. They do have something that you can download if you walk through it and say use it offline, but it's not that good. Without internet connection, it's like Google Drive. It kind of dies out. So it's funny when I talk to people, they say, oh, I don't use Office. Why do I have to pay? Why am I paying so much money for Office? And I'm always asking them, well, why? Why are you? Because they give it away for free, and people don't really know that. I think you get 500 gig or 500. I think it's 500 gigs on OneDrive for free. Obviously, they're giving you all this stuff for free to get you hooked, to then have you buy more and more and more. But you can run your whole business. If you look at the, let's see if I have it here. Yeah, if you look at the Microsoft Active Directory stuff, I don't know. I'm not going to log into that because there's different stuff. But Microsoft Active Directory is free. Microsoft Office is free. Microsoft OneDrive is free. All of this stuff is free. Now, keep in mind, it is limited. So you're going to hit something where you're going to have to pay. Unfortunately, I mean, it might be a good thing for business or not. Unfortunately, when you hit that limit to pay, it becomes pretty expensive. But, I mean, you can see the OneDrive here. This is my local computer on my OneDrive. So all this stuff, unlike Office, I'm taking it with me. And then it follows me to all the computers that I go to. So any of this stuff here that I want to work on, if I go home, I can work on it. If I go to my laptop, I can work on it. This is my own private, OneDrive that I can bring things around with me, and everything will follow me. People are going to ask about security. Before you ask, there's something called Federation security, which you can set files to where they cannot be copied to OneDrive. That would be complicated for us to talk about, so we're not going to get into that right now, but there is security measures in place, because I know that's a big thing we talked about in security. In our security seminar, was people copying stuff off the network. So the other thing we want to look at in the settings is, I think we covered a lot of it. I mean, we went through all your stuff. This is, this is, all your normal stuff that's always been there. But you can see that we went through kind of everything. This would be the last thing, is you can personalize this with how you want to do it. It's a little bit different than the way it used to be. Basically, it's, to me, a lot easier. So you can go through here. Remember in 7, you had to like right click and figure this out and do this? Everything is under personalization. So you can go into your theme settings. You can pick a theme. This one that I'm using is default, but whatever I set to default here will then follow me around. So if I set it back to Windows or Windows 10 or whatever, I went out to a computer in the tech area, or I go home tonight, it's going to follow me. But it's very easy to, set everything and figure everything out. And then if you don't want to go through all these settings, you also have this. This is like the Action Center. The Action Center has everything that you want in there to really look at. So if I wanted to, you know, I don't have a projector in here, but if I wanted to go into the Action Center and write a note or connect, I don't, your PC doesn't, I don't have a Miracast device, but if this was on a tablet, we would see a lot more. Like we would see on a tablet, it would have airplane mode. We can't go into tablet mode because this isn't a tablet, but you can see there's different things in here that, you know what I mean, would be useful if we had to. Like if this was a laptop, it's even more useful. Like I have a couple Windows 10 laptops. I have a regular laptop and then we have some tablets here. So the buttons would be here to go into airplane mode. They'd be here and they're really quick on a touchscreen to access. On a computer, maybe not. You know what I mean? It's kind of, we don't have a lot of choices for it, but on a laptop, this is nice. Like if you wanted to set quiet hours or stuff like that. And like I said, it will take you back into the major things. It also will tell you what, like if there's email in here, you can see here updates were installed, so I don't have to worry about that. Anybody that's managed by us knows it's Thursday, so you know you have to leave your computers on tonight because Microsoft releases patches on Tuesdays, so we start slipstreaming them now. Anything that is not slipstream that requires a reboot, we're all going to be rebooting at I think 6 o'clock or 6:30. I don't know the exact time, but I know people call in on Friday mornings and they forget, and we have to tell them that you're going to wait till the next week. So like I said, this didn't go too bad other than the beginning. We've never actually done this before. When we first were going to do this, we were going to have videos, and then when we looked at it a couple days ago, we didn't really like it. It was started out with a slideshow and videos to where we changed it now to kind of a live thing. I hope it was helpful because we're going to do 2 more of these in the same format. This one, I know Windows 10 is pretty basic because it's been out for a long time, but we called a bunch of people, so we're going to do productivity, which is the general office suite, and we're also going to do Outlook because a lot of people have problems with Outlook. And it's probably a good thing to go over. Even if you don't have problems with Outlook and you've been using it for years like me, there's a lot of new features in it and they keep adding it. So if nobody has any questions, I guess I'll turn it back over to Jake.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. If you guys do have any other questions for some, you know, if you're a little shy to ask it on here, you can send either of us, or you can send me an email. So that's my email is jake@networkconceptsinc.com. I'll throw it in the chat real fast. And if that's pretty much all. So thank you guys again for joining us.
Oh yeah, and before anybody leaves, the handout for this is on the screen. So if anybody wants to grab this handout that we used, this is a Microsoft handout. It's going to walk you through everything I talked about. This one's pretty basic, so you might not really want it. But and the up-and-coming ones, you're probably going to want the handout. So if you go in there, it'll say Windows 10 Tips and Tricks booklet. So thanks.
Thanks, guys.